The debriefing room at Confederate Military Command was designed to intimidate. High-ranking officers from a dozen species sat around a crescent-shaped table. Their various expressions of concern, confusion, and curiosity focused on a single human cadet and her vintage rifle, Admiral Vexon, Supreme Commander of Confederate forces in this sector, was a saurian whose scales had gone silver with age and experience. His reptilian features betrayed nothing as he reviewed the tactical recordings for the third time. 8 shots, he said finally, his voice carrying the weight of 40 years in command. 8 targets eliminated in 87 seconds. No civilian casualties, no collateral damage, no charges detonated. He paused, fixing Zara with an unblinking stare. Cadet Chun, explain your methodology. Around the table, military analysts from various species leaned forward. The recordings had been studied frame by frame, the bullet trajectories analyzed, the timing sequences broken down to millisecond intervals. What they had witnessed challenged fundamental assumptions about modern warfare. Zara stood at attention, her grandfather's rifle secured in its case beside her chair. Sir, I observed the raiders' patrol patterns for 14 minutes prior to engagement. Based on their positioning and communication protocols, I determined the optimal firing sequence to prevent coordinated retaliation. Observed for 14 minutes, repeated General Vorthok, a crystalline being whose internal light patterns indicated deep thought. Our combat eyes require extensive data processing to achieve similar tactical analysis. How did you perform these calculations manually? I didn't calculate, sir. I recognized patterns. Zara's response drew confused murmurs from the assembled officers. The raiders were following standard Korvaxi tactical doctrine. They positioned themselves according to their training, which made their behavior predictable. Colonel Jexmine, the expedition's intelligence chief, activated a holographic display showing the station's layout. Predictable how, Cadet? Our analysis suggested 17 different possible response patterns to any assault scenario. Zara stepped forward, studying the 3-dimensional representation. They were thinking like soldiers, sir. Soldiers follow doctrine, maintain communication, establish overlapping fields of fire, and prepare fallback positions. But they weren't thinking like hunters. The distinction seemed to confuse most of the officers. War, to their civilizations, was a matter of superior technology and overwhelming force. The concept of hunting, of patient observation followed by precise, economical violence was alien to their military philosophy. Admiral Vexon's scales shifted color slightly, indicating increased interest. Explain the difference. Soldiers expect to fight other soldiers, Zara said, moving around the holographic display. They prepare for coordinated attacks, multiple threats, sustained engagements. Hunters expect to kill prey. 1 shot, 1 kill, then move to the next target before the prey even realizes it's being hunted. She highlighted the raiders' positions on the display. Commander Victor positioned himself where he could coordinate his team. That made him the first target, remove command and control, and the rest of the team becomes reactive instead of proactive. The engineering guard was positioned to trigger the charges if threatened. Second target, eliminate the dead man switch before the others realize they're under attack. The corridor patrol was mobile, capable of rapid response to multiple locations. Third target, remove their mobility before they can reinforce threatened positions. Each explanation revealed a layer of tactical thinking that none of the assembled officers had considered. They had analyzed the situation in terms of firepower, defensive positions, and coordinated assault options. Zara had analyzed it in terms of behavior, timing, and sequence. General Kethver of the Zentari fleet spoke up, his forearms gesturing toward the display. This methodology assumes perfect accuracy under combat conditions. Our weapons are designed with area effect and multiple projectiles, precisely because organic targeting ability is inherently limited. Human targeting ability, Zara corrected gently. My grandfather used to say that humans were persistence hunters. We evolved to track prey across vast distances, to read behavior patterns, to kill efficiently with minimal resources. She gestured toward her rifle case. This weapon represents thousands of years of human hunting tradition, not military technology, hunting technology. There's a difference. The statement sparked heated discussion among the officers. Several species had evolved as predators, but their military traditions emphasized overwhelming force and technological advantage. The concept of applying hunting techniques to modern warfare seemed primitive, almost barbaric. "Cadet," Admiral Vexen called for order. "You're suggesting that human military capability derives from hunting instincts rather than technological advancement?" "Not entirely, sir. But human warfare incorporates hunting principles that other species might not emphasize." Zara paused, choosing her words carefully. "We understand patience, individual targeting, and the psychology of prey behavior." Colonel Jexmine accessed her data files. "Our intelligence indicates that Earth's military history includes numerous conflicts where technologically superior forces were defeated by supposedly primitive opponents. Would you attribute these outcomes to the factors you've described?" The question touched on sensitive political territory. Many galactic civilizations preferred to view their own military superiority as evidence of evolutionary advancement. The suggestion that primitive humans might possess inherent tactical advantages was uncomfortable. "I think," Zara said diplomatically, "that different species bring different strengths to military engagement. Zentari energy weapons are incredibly powerful. Saurian tactical doctrine is highly sophisticated. Korvaxi armor technology is impressive. Humans just happen to be really good at killing things efficiently." The blunt assessment created an uncomfortable silence. Several officers exchanged glances, clearly disturbed by the casual way she had described lethal capability. Admiral Vexen broke the silence. "Demonstrate this efficiency, Cadet. We have a tactical scenario prepared?" The room's holographic projectors activated, creating a complex three-dimensional battle space. Virtual enemies moved through urban terrain using advanced tactics and superior numbers. Standard military doctrine would require coordinated assault teams, air support, and sustained engagement over several hours. 43 enemy positions, the Admiral explained. Mixed armor and infantry, prepared defensive positions, civilian areas that cannot be subjected to area effect weapons. How would human hunting methodology approach this scenario? Zara studied the display for several minutes, watching movement patterns and identifying behavioral signatures. The virtual enemies were following sophisticated tactical doctrine, but doctrine was still pattern-based behavior. "I would need 8 days, she said finally. 8 days? General Vorthak's infernal light patterns flashed with surprise. "Our combat simulations suggest a minimum of 2 weeks with heavy casualties." 8 days to study their patterns, yes, sir? Then approximately 4 hours to eliminate key targets and disrupt their command structure. After that, conventional forces could mop up the remainder with minimal resistance. The assembled officers stared at her in disbelief. The idea that a single individual could neutralize a complex military formation through patient observation seemed impossible. You would spend 8 days in hostile territory, observing enemy positions without being detected? Colonel Jexmine's voice carried obvious skepticism. "My grandfather once spent 3 weeks tracking a single elk through the Rocky Mountains," Zara replied. "Humans are very good at remaining invisible when necessary." Admiral Vexen deactivated the holographic display. "Cadet Chin, you present us with a troubling possibility. If human military capability includes these hunting characteristics, it suggests that our understanding of Earth's strategic value may be inadequate." The political implications were obvious to everyone in the room. Human colony worlds were considered backwater territories, defended primarily by local militia with minimal galactic military support. If humans possessed inherent tactical capabilities that rivaled or exceeded advanced military technology, the strategic balance of power might need re-evaluation. "Sir," Zara said carefully, "I'm just one person with one rifle. I'm not representative of all human military capability." Perhaps not," the Admiral replied. "But you've demonstrated techniques that none of our military academies teach, using equipment that our technology assessment teams classified as obsolete." That suggests knowledge gaps in our understanding. General Kethver accessed his data files. How many humans serve in Confederate military forces? Approximately 12,000 across all services, Colonel Jexmean replied. Most in support roles or colonial defense units. And how many possess this hunting background that Cadet Chin describes? The question had no ready answer. Human settlement patterns included numerous colony worlds where traditional skills remained necessary for survival. Hunting, tracking, and individual marksmanship were common civilian activities on the frontier. Unknown, sir. Human cultural diversity makes generalization difficult. Admiral Vexen stood, signaling the end of the formal debriefing. Cadet Chin, you're hereby assigned to develop trainee. The emergency alert klaxons shattered the Academy's usual quiet 3 days after Zara's record-breaking performance. Red emergency lights bathed the corridors as cadets rushed to their assigned stations. The mock urgency of training exercises replaced by genuine alarm. All senior cadets to Briefing Room 7, announced the station's AI system. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Zara arrived to find Instructor Vexahan S. Scales a darker shade than usual, indicating serious stress among his species. Around the briefing table sat the Academy's top-performing cadets, herself, Morthok, Kethver, Tun, and 4 others representing various galactic civilizations. 18 hours ago, Vexahan began without preamble. A Korvaxi raider vessel attacked a civilian research station in the Hebrides sector. The raiders took hostages and are demanding safe passage through Confederate space in exchange for their release. The holographic display showed a sleek, predatory ship attached to a much larger research facility like a parasite feeding on its host. Zara recognized the Korvaxi design, aggressive, built for quick strikes and faster retreats. Intelligence suggests 8 Korvaxi Marines are holding approximately 40 researchers and support staff. Confederate forces have surrounded the station, but any direct assault would likely result in significant civilian casualties. Morthok S. chitinous armor plating flexed, a sign of agitation among his people. Why not simply board with overwhelming force? Korvaxi are skilled, but 8 Marines against a full assault team. The station structure is compromised, Vexahan explained. The Korvaxi have positioned explosive charges at critical support points. They've also rigged the research labs, which contain several experimental power sources that could create significant complications if destabilized. Tunes' feathers ruffled. What does this have to do with Academy cadets? Surely this is a matter for active military units. The instructor's serpentine gaze swept the room. Command has authorized a special reconnaissance mission. The station has maintenance conduits large enough for a small team to infiltrate undetected. Your mission would be to gather intelligence on hostage positions and raider deployment. Then relay that information to the assault teams. Zara felt a familiar sensation, the same focused calm that had settled over her during marksmanship training. Her grandfather had taught her to recognize the feeling, the moment when all variables aligned and action became inevitable. Sir, she said quietly, what's the real mission? Vexahan's pause confirmed her suspicions. The other cadets looked confused, but Zara had grown up around military personnel. She understood the careful language of official briefings and the gaps where unstated objectives hid. Ideally, the instructor said carefully, intelligence gathering would be sufficient. However, if an opportunity presented itself to neutralize the threat with minimal risk to civilian life, he let the sentence hang unfinished. You want us to take them out? Kethver stated bluntly, his forearms crossing in a gesture of skepticism. 8 Academy cadets against veteran Korvaxi raiders. I want you to assess the situation and respond appropriately, Vexahan corrected. The decision tree remains entirely within your operational discretion. Zara understood. The mission had political complications that required plausible deniability. If successful, it would be presented as a brilliant tactical operation. If it failed, it would be a training exercise that went tragically wrong. When do we deploy? She asked. Your transport departs in 2 hours. Full combat load, non-academy weapons authorized. Vexahen's gaze lingered on Zara. All weapons, cadet. Whatever you feel most confident with. The preparation time passed quickly. Zara checked and rechecked her grandfather's rifle, loading 8 carefully maintained rounds into the internal magazine. Around her, the other cadets prepared their sophisticated arsenals, plasma rifles, graviton disruptors, energy weapons that hummed with barely contained power. "Chun," called Morthok as they boarded the transport. "Are you seriously bringing that antique on a combat mission?" "It's what I shoot best with," she replied simply. The journey to the Hebrides sector took 14 hours through hyperspace. During transit, the team reviewed intelligence reports and station schematics. The Korvaxi had chosen their position well. The research facility's layout created multiple choke points that would funnel any rescue attempt into kill zones. "Their leader is Commander Victor," reported Jextil, the crystalline being whose natural abilities made her an excellent intelligence analyst. Veteran of 12 successful raids, known for ruthless efficiency and tactical innovation. The holoscreen displayed a hulking Korvaxi warrior, his reptilian features scarred from decades of combat. His equipment loadout included experimental armor and a heavy plasma cannon that could punch through military-grade ship hulling. 7 subordinates, all combat veterans, Jextil continued. Standard Korvaxi marine equipment, powered armor, energy shields, rapid-fire pulse weapons. They've positioned themselves throughout the station to maximize coverage and minimize exposure to coordinated assault. Zara studied the tactical display, her mind automatically calculating angles and distances. The maintenance conduits would provide concealment but limited firing positions. Any engagement would require precision. There would be no room for suppressive fire or area effect weapons with civilians in proximity. "Drop zone in 30 minutes, announced their pilot. "Confederate forces report ready to commence operation on your signal." The transport deposited them at an emergency airlock 3 kilometers from the main station. The approach would be made in EVA suits, using the asteroid field's natural cover to avoid detection, drifting through space in near absolute silence. Zara felt her grandfather's presence. He had hunted in similar conditions, alone in vast wilderness, stalking prey that was equally capable of killing him if he made mistakes. The stakes were higher now, but the fundamental challenge remained the same. "Maintenance hatch Alpha 7, whispered Kethver through the CUM system. "Sensors show clear." They entered the station like ghosts, moving through conduits barely wide enough for their gear. The passages were designed for automated maintenance drones, not armed infiltrators, but they served their purpose. "Visual on the first raider," reported 10 from a ventilation grate. "Central corridor, level 12. Heavy armor, scanning pattern suggests patrol route." Through her own observation point, Zara could see the Korvaxi Marine. He moved with professional competence, weapon-ready, alert but not paranoid. His positioning suggested confidence in his team's control of the station. "Hostages visible in the main lab," came Jextil's voice. 23 civilians, hands bound, guarded by 2 raiders. The explosive charges are clearly visible on the structural supports. "Engineering section has 12 more hostages," added another team member. "Single guard, but he's positioned where he can trigger the charges if threatened." The picture was becoming clear. The Korvaxi had split the hostages into manageable groups, positioned their guards to maintain overlapping coverage, and rigged the station so that any rescue attempt would risk massive civilian casualties. "Command wants options," crackled their handler's voice through encrypted channels. "Assault teams are ready, but current raider positions make success unlikely." Zara keyed her CUM once for acknowledgement, then began moving. The others watched in confusion as she navigated through the conduits with purpose. "Heading for a different part of the station? Chun, where are you going?" demanded Morthok. "The primary target clusters are in the opposite direction." She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she was calculating. 8 raiders positioned throughout a multi-level facility. Overlapping fields of fire, dead man switches on explosive charges, hostages used as human shields. The conventional approach would require overwhelming force, Applied simultaneously? Impossible with their current resources, but there was another way. Her grandfather had taught her about persistence hunting, about patience and precision. Sometimes the best solution wasn't the obvious one. "I need 15 minutes," she finally replied. "Don't engage until my signal." "What signal?" Tin demanded, but Zara was already moving. She made her way to the station's primary communications array, a massive antenna complex that extended beyond the facility's main hull. The maintenance access provided an excellent vantage point with clear sightlines to multiple levels of the station through the transparent aluminum viewports. She could observe the raiders' movement patterns. They were good, disciplined, alert, professional. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had planned for a traditional assault. They expected overwhelming force, multiple entry points, coordinated timing designed to prevent them from triggering their charges. They had not planned for a single shooter with unlimited patience and 8 carefully placed shots. Zara settled into a prone position, bracing her grandfather's rifle against the maintenance framework. The range to her first target was approximately 400 meters through the station's internal atmosphere. Easy shot under normal circumstances. These weren't normal circumstances. The station's life. Support systems created air currents that would affect bullet trajectory. The transparent aluminum viewports would slow and deflect her projectiles slightly. The Raider's armor would require precise shot placement to ensure clean kills. Most importantly, the Galactic Defense Academy's firing range stretched across 3 kilometers of reinforced duraplast, designed to accommodate the exotic weaponry of dozens of species. Lieutenant Commander Zara Chun walked through the center of it all, her worn leather rifle case drawing stares and barely concealed snickers from the assembled alien cadets. "Is that human seriously carrying a projectile weapon?" whispered Kethver, a towering Zentari whose plasma rifle hummed with barely contained energy. His forearms gestured dismissively at Zara's case. "What's next? Rocks and sticks." The Zentari military doctrine emphasized overwhelming firepower. Their standard-issue weapons could melt through ship hulls and reduce entire city blocks to glowing slag. To them, the concept of firing small metal pellets seemed quaint, almost primitive. Instructor Vexahan, a reptilian saurian whose scales reflected the range's artificial lighting, called the group to attention. His voice carried the authority of someone who had survived 3 major galactic conflicts. "Today's exercise is precision elimination. Each cadet will engage 12 targets at varying distances, from 200 meters to 3 kilometers. You have unlimited ammunition and 60 minutes. The targets were sophisticated holographic projections, each representing different threat scenarios. Some moved erratically, simulating combat evasion patterns. Others appeared only briefly before vanishing. Testing reaction time and target acquisition speed. The current Academy record," Vexahan continued, his serpentine eyes scanning the group, "stands at 11 successful eliminations in 47 minutes. Set by Cadet Morthok of the Krellin Empire last cycle." Morthok, a heavily muscled humanoid with chitinous armor plating, nodded smugly. His weapon of choice was a graviton disruptor that could bend space-time around its targets, making precise aiming almost irrelevant within its effective range. As the cadets began setting up their equipment, Zara quietly opened her case. Inside, nestled in custom foam padding, lay what appeared to be an antique. The rifle was clearly of human manufacture, its wooden stock bearing the wear marks of decades of use. Metal components showed signs of careful maintenance but obvious age. "Sweet mother of stars," laughed Jextel, a crystalline being whose natural body could refract energy into devastating beam weapons. "Is that thing held together with prayer and good intentions?" Even Zara had to admit her grandfather's hunting rifle looked out of place among the Academy's cutting-edge arsenal. The bolt-action mechanism was purely mechanical, requiring manual operation between shots. No smart targeting systems, no energy cells, no gravitational field manipulators. Just precision machined metal, carefully balanced wood, and the accumulated wisdom of human ballistics engineers. "Chun," Instructor Vexahan approached, his concern evident. "I'm required to ask if you're certain about your weapon choice." The Academy maintains a full arsenal of standard-issue armaments if you'd prefer to. I'm good. Sir, Zara replied, running her hand along the rifle's familiar contours. This belonged to my grandfather. He used it to feed his family for 30 years in the Montana wilderness. The explanation drew more confused looks from her fellow cadets. The concept of using weapons to hunt for food rather than wage war struck many of them as bizarre. Most galactic civilizations had moved beyond such necessities millennia ago. Cadet Tin of the avian hierarchy fluffed his iridescent feathers in what Zara had learned was their species' expression of amusement. Your ancestor used projectile weapons against wild animals? How primitive. Did he also make fire by rubbing sticks together? Actually, yes, Zara said matter-of-factly, checking her rifle's scope alignment. Grandpa was big on traditional survival skills. Said you never knew when technology might fail you. This admission sent ripples of laughter through the group. The idea that technology might fail seemed absurd to beings whose civilizations had enjoyed stable, advanced systems for thousands of years. Vexahen raised his scaled hand for silence. Positions, cadets. The exercise begins in 60 seconds. The firing lines stretch for 200 meters, providing each cadet with adequate space for their equipment and firing stance. Some of the more exotic weapons required substantial setup time. Morphic-S Graviton Disruptor needed a full minute just to initialize its quantum field generators. Zara, meanwhile, simply shouldered her rifle and began adjusting for the first target. Her movements were economical, practiced. She'd been shooting with this rifle since she was 12 years old, learning to read wind patterns and compensate for bullet drop across vast distances. Time begins. Now, Vexahen announced. Immediately, the range erupted in a symphony of alien weaponry. Plasma bolts screamed through the air, leaving ionized trails. Energy beams painted brilliant lines across the landscape. Gravitational pulses warped the very space around the targets. Zara ignored the chaos. Her world narrowed to the familiar ritual of precision shooting. Breathe in, half out, sight picture, trigger squeeze. The rifle's report was sharp and clean. Almost lost among the cacophony of exotic weapons, her first shot connected with a distant target that had been flickering in and out of existence, designed to test reflexes. The hologram flared and disappeared. Around her, other cadets were struggling with the target's unpredictable manifestation pattern, their advanced targeting systems confused by the irregular quantum signatures. Interesting, muttered Vexahen, watching through high-powered magnification equipment. She's reading the pattern manually. Indeed, Zara had noticed what the sophisticated alien targeting systems had missed. The flickering target wasn't random. It followed a subtle rhythm, probably based on some complex algorithm. But patterns were patterns, and humans had evolved to recognize them. Her grandfather had taught her to watch for the tiny signs that revealed an animal's intended movement before the animal itself knew it. She worked the bolt, chambering a fresh round. The mechanical action felt solid, reassuring in its simplicity. No power cells to drain, no quantum matrices to align. Just reliable engineering that had proven itself across decades of use. Her second target appeared at maximum range, 3 kilometers distant. Even with advanced optics, most cadets would struggle to even see it clearly. Zara compensated for wind drift, factoring in the Coriolis effect and the slight atmospheric variations she'd observed during her pre-shooting survey. The shot took nearly 4 seconds to reach its target. She had already worked the bolt and was lining up her third shot when the distant hologram finally flared and vanished. Impossible, breathed Kethver, posing his own rapid-fire plasma barrage to stare at Zara. She's using ballistic projectiles at 3 kilometers. The computational requirements alone, ... She's not computing, Vexahen replied, his own amazement evident. She's intuiting. Watch her breathing, her micro-adjustments. It's all instinctive. The truth was both simpler and more complex than the instructor realized. Zara wasn't performing calculations in the traditional sense. Instead, she was drawing on thousands of hours of practice, muscle memory refined through repetition, and an almost supernatural understanding of her weapon's capabilities. Her grandfather had called it becoming one with the rifle, though he'd probably never imagined his granddaughter would apply those lessons against holographic alien targets on a space station. As the exercise continued, a strange quiet began to settle over the nearby firing positions. One by one, cadets stopped their own shooting to watch Zara work. Her rate of fire was deliberately slow. She had to manually operate the bolt between shots. But every round found its mark. Shot after shot, target after target. The moving ones, the distant ones, the briefly appearing ones that required split-second timing, each fell to her vintage Earth rifle with mechanical precision. Ton of the avian hierarchy had completely abandoned his own exercise. His energy-based weapon, capable of tracking and engaging multiple targets simultaneously, lay forgotten as he stared through magnification scopes. "She's not missing," he said, his voice carrying a note of disbelief. "Not once." How is she not missing? The question struck at the heart of what made the demonstration so unsettling for the alien cadets. Their weapons were designed to compensate for user error. Smart targeting systems, area effect weapons, guided projectiles, all of these technologies existed to overcome the inherent limitations of organic aiming ability. But Zara wasn't overcoming limitations. She was operating at a level of precision that their technology was designed to artificially achieve. "Target 11, she murmured to herself, lining up a shot at a hologram that was moving in a complex, evasive pattern. The target's creators had programmed it with combat AI derived from actual battle footage, making it behave exactly like a real enemy trying to avoid incoming fire. Zara led the target, predicting not just its current movement but its likely reaction to its own movement. Humans, she knew, were natural persistence hunters. They had evolved to track prey across vast distances. Reading behavior patterns and anticipating reactions, the shot connected perfectly, taking the evasive target center mass. 12 targets. 12 eliminations, announced Vexahan, his voice echoing across the now silent range. Time elapsed. 17 minutes, 43 seconds. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the various weapon systems had ceased their humming and cycling as their operators stared in shock. "New Academy Wrecker,"